Poetry of a Lyric Age by John Addington Symonds. Before proceeding to discuss the conditions under which pederastia existed in Athens, it may be well to pause and to consider the tone adopted with regard to it by some of the earlier Greek poets. Much that is interesting on the subject of the true Hellenic eros can be gathered from Theognis, Solon, Pindar, Aeschylus, and Sophocles, while the lyrics of Anacreon, Alcæus, Ibycus, and others of the same period illustrate the wanton and illiberal passion, hubris, which tended to corrode and undermine the nobler feeling. It is well known that Theognis and his friend Coronus were members of this aristocratic of Megara, after Megara had thrown off the yoke of Corinth in the early part of the 6th century. The city first submitted to the democratic despotism of Theognis and then for many years engaged in civil warfare. A larger number of the elegies of Theognis are especially intended to instruct Coronus how he ought to act as an illustrious party leader of the nobles, eschloi, in their contest with the people, deloi. They consist, therefore, of political and social precepts, and for our present purpose are only important as illustrating the educational authority assumed by a Dorian Fioletta over his friend. The personal elegies intermingled with these poems on conduct reveal the very heart of the Greek lover at his early period. Here's one on loyalty. Love me not with words alone, while your mind and thoughts are otherwise. If you really care for me and the heart within you is loyal, but love me with a pure and honest soul, or openly disown and hate me, let the breach between us be avowed. He who hath a single tongue and a double mind is a bad comrade, Coronus, better as a foe than a friend. The bitter sweet of love is well described in the following couplets. Harsh and sweet, alluring and repelled, until it, by crowned with completion, is love for young men. If one brings it to perfection, then it is sweet, but if a man pursues and does not love, then it is of all things the most painful. The same strain is repeated in the lines which begin, a boy's love is fair to keep, fair to lay aside. As one time Theognis tells his friend that he has the changeable temper of hawk, the skittishness of a pampered colt. At another he remarks that boys are more constant than women in their affection. His passion rises to its noblest height in a poem which deserves to rank with some of Shakespeare's sonnets, and which, like them, has fulfilled its own promise of immortality. In order to appreciate the value of the fame conferred on Coronus by Theognis, and celebrated in such lofty strains, we must remember that these elegies were sung at banquets. The fair young men, of whom the poet speaks, boy-lovers themselves, chanted the praise of Coronus to the sound of flutes, while the cups went round of a lyre was passed from hand to hand of merry-making guests. A subject to which Theognis more than once refers is calumny. Often will the folk speak vain things against thee in my ears, and against me in thine. Pay thou no heed to them. Again, he frequently reminds the boy he loves, whether it be Coronus or his mother, that the bloom of youth is passing, and that this is the reason for showing kindness. This argument is urged with what appears like coarseness in the following couplet. O boy, so long as thy chin remains smooth, never will I cease from fawning, now, not if it is doomed for me to die. A couplet, which is also attributed to Solon, shows that pederastia at this time in Greek was associated with manly sports and pleasures. Blessed is the man who loves the brave steeds of war, fair boys and hounds, and stranger guests from afar. Nor must the following be omitted. Blessed is the man who laughs, and after play, whereby his limbs are supply made and strong, retiring to his home twixt sleep and song, sports with a fair boy on his breast all day. The following couplet is attributed to him by Plutarch, nor does there seem any reason to doubt its genuineness. The text seems to be corrupt, but the meaning is pretty clear. In the charming season of flower time of youth, thou shalt love boys, yearning for their thighs and honeyed mouth. Solon, it may be remembered, thought it wise to regulate the conditions under which the love of three youths might be tolerated. The general impression produced by careful reading of Theognis is that he entertained a genuine passion for Coronus, and that he was anxious to train the young man's mind in what he judged the noblest principles. Love, at the same time, except in its more sensual moments, he describes as bittersweet and subject to anxiety. that perturbation of the emotions which is inseparable from any of the deeper forms of personal attachment, and which the necessary conditions of boy love exasperated, was irksome to the Greek. It is not a little curious to observe how all the poets of the despotic age resent and fret against the force of their own feeling, differing herein from the singers of chivalry who idealized the very pains of passion. Of Ibycus, who was celebrated among the ancients as the lyrist of Palaestria, very little has been preserved to us, but that little is sufficient to indicate the fervid and voluptuous style of his art. His imagery resembles that of Anacreon. The onset of love, for instance, is one fragment is compared to the down-swooping of a Thracian whirlwind. In another the poet trembles at the approach of Eros like an old racehorse who is dragged forth to prove his speed once more. Of a genuine Anacreon we possess more numerous and longer fragments, and the names of his favourites Cleobulus, Smerris, or Capizes are famous. The general tone of his love poems is relaxed and oriental, and his language abounds in phrases indicative of sensuality. The following may be selected: Cleobulus I love, for Cleobulus I am mad, Cleobulus I watch and worship with my gaze. Again, a boy with a maiden's eyes, I seek and follow thee, but thou heedest not, thou know'st that thou art my soul's charioteer. In another place he speaks of love, the virginal, gleaming and radiant with desire. Symonds, to pass the time of youth with friends, is a word with Anacreon, may be said to have made current in Greek. It occurs twice in his fragments and exactly expresses the luxurious enjoyment of youthful grace and beauty which appear to have been his idol of love. We are very far here from the Achillean friendship of the Iliad, yet occasionally Anacreon uses images of great force to describe the attack of passion, as when he says that love has smitten him with a huge axe and plunged him in a wintry torrent. It must be remembered that both Anacreon and Ibycus were court poets singing in the palaces of Polycrates and Hippias. The youths they celebrated were probably a little better than the exoleti of a Roman emperor. This cannot be said exactly of Alecus, whose love for black-eyed Lycus was remembered by Cicero and Horace. So little, however, is left of his erotic poems that no definite opinion can be formed about them. The authority of later Greek authors justifies our placing him upon the list of those who helped to soften and emasculate the character of Greek love by their poems. Two Athenian drinking songs preserved by Athenaeus, which seem to be the stamp of the lyric age, may here be quoted. They serve to illustrate the kind of feeling to which expression was given in public by friends and boy lovers. Would I were a lovely heap of iron, and that lovely voice carried me into the Dionysian chorus. This is marked by a very delicate, though naive, fancy. The next is no less eminent for its sustained, impassioned, simple, rhythmic feeling. Drink with me, be young with me, laugh with me, wear crowns with me when I am mad, be mad, with me when I am temperate, be sober. The greatest poet of the lyric age, the lyrist par excellence, Pindar, adds much to our conception of Greek love at this period. Not only is the poem to Phioxenus, whom he loved and in whose arms he is said to have died in the theatre of Argos, one of the most splendid achievements of his art, but its choice of phrase and the curious parallel which it draws between the free love of boys and the servile love of women help us to comprehend the serious intensity of this passion. The flashing rays of his forehead, and a storm tossed with desire, and the young limbed bloom of boys are phrases which it is impossible adequately to translate. So, too, are the images by which the heart of him who does not feel the beauty of Phioxenus is said to have been forged with cold fire out of adamant, though the poet himself is compared to wax wasting under the sun's rays. In Pindar, passing from Ibycus and Anacreon, we are scanned at once into a pure and more healthful atmosphere, fraught indeed with passion and pregnant with storm, but no longer simply sensual. Taken as a whole, the odes of Pindar, composed for the most part in the honor of young men and boys, both beautiful and strong, are the work of a great moralist as well as a great artist. He never fails to teach his precept and example. He does not, as Ibycus is reported to have done, adorn his verses with legends of Ganymede and Tithonus for the sake of insinuating compliments. Yet no one shared in fuller measure the Greek admiration for health and grace and vigour of limb. This is obvious in the many radiant pictures of masculine perfection he has drawn, as well as in the images by which he loves to bring the beauty bloom of youth to mind. The true Hellenic spirit may be better studied in Pindar than in any other poet of his age, and after we have weighed his high morality, sound counsel, and reverence for all things good, together with the passion he aroused, we shall have done something toward comprehending the inner nature of Greek love.